All right, so with my limited research and knowledge here, and with a dog hanging around my ankles, I'm going to try and speak on this subject real quick because it needs to be said. You know, a couple things that need to be clarified. Um, to Doctor Ben Davidson, professor, have you, if you want to call it that, because online professor is still a professor. Um, I've got a couple things to pick a bone at with you, and if you'll give me the time, I'll be more than happy to do so with aplomb, candor, and intelligence. Um, Something that you said had me kind of scratching my chin, as like, wait, I don't, I don't want to call this man a hypocrite because, brother, I extort what you do. Sorry, not extort, stole. My apologies, my bad language, and you're gonna get the whole of this, by the way. Um, just listen with me. Bear with me. Um, you said that they can't control the weather, but they can control the weather. That one of our points that I'm gonna go at. Two, you said that they influenced a high pressure cell with HARP. Ish. And I'm gonna go into that as well. It's actually a lot more nuanced than even you put into it, which is saying something because, yeah, um, all of that is there to be found for folks if you want to go and look it up. Yes, they did influence it. If you could call making it slightly stronger and only in one portion of it, so it kind of destabilized and blew itself out. Yeah, it just resurfaced again. Not let me see here. It was appropriately put. It resurfaced again about 150 miles to the north, which caused a little bit of a difference with other weather systems within the area, but not enough to be noticeable or to be impactful to the United States. So, yes, but no. The HARP can't manipulate the weather in any meaningful way. However, cloud seeding, cloud strafing, cloud uh, manipulation has come a long, and I mean a long way since the 1966 test, or sorry, no, not 1966 through 1969. There were several tests done with the it's a freaking hurricane aircraft. I forget off the top of my head. Again, bear with me. I'm trying to literally go through this massive amount of knowledge that I've got. And yes, I've forgotten more things than most people will ever learn. So just like I said, bear with me. In those years, there was several different types of weather manipulation, weather modification done in an attempt to do impactful harm or what have you to, or even steer weather in certain directions because of the impact that the hurricanes had. Now, even though it was inconclusive at the time, many of the observations made were put towards later tests and they showed that it could be done. Though, again, minutely, those minute uses can be extremely impactful if done in the right places at the right times and can be used in a military fashion. This is why, even though there's patents that exist for weather manipulation warfare, you got to remember psychological warfare. This is the biggest point I have to make. Psychological warfare is something that has had an impact on everybody, and it is one of the most useful things on the internet. If they can make you believe that they're not doing it, you should at least suspect that they are. This is just psychological warfare 101. Look at what's being said by the peer-reviewed papers. Look at what's being said by the military and this and that and the other. And then think in the opposite direction. Because a lot of the time, they're wrong. A good portion of the time they're right because they're using that in order to run their own narrative. This is the political side of psychological warfare. And don't for a second think that just because you're a civilian, oh, they're not using it against you. They definitely are. It's just a matter of they expect you to be smart enough to see through it. And yeah, it's a difficult run to run through, and you're going to try and poke holes and everything. I say, I understand. That's fine. I'm just trying to come to you with that little bit of extra that I've got. So, if we look at the test, specifically in, I believe it was 69, they were able to make both, well, not make them do this, but influence them to do this. Influence both a hurricane to move in a specific direction, even though they didn't understand fully at the time what they were doing and how they did it. They were able to manipulate a hurricane to move in a different direction and become stronger and do a whole lot more damage. And if you look at this stuff that you've been paying attention to recently, suppositions can be made because of observations given. This is what we call, for everybody who's part of the scientific community and actually pays attention to the way that science works, this is what we call creating a supposition upon which to base a hypothesis. That hypothesis can then be experimented upon. Now, we have to look at the geology of the area. We have to look at the different electrical charges of the particular zones. We have to look at what chemicals were used at the time that these particular cases happened, so that you have this understanding of the case situation. And then you can make your supposition based upon that. This is how this works. It's a long, difficult process until you have all the information together, and then you can base your supposition upon that information. The information that is available, mind you, is the Birkeland currents, the fact that CO2 along a particular Birkeland current line, and you even covered this, Ben, so I want to point this out to you. You even covered this way back there in the years when we were talking weather modification way back in the day. The region of where this particular hurricane was on the edge of a Birkeland current region, in the particular in the Atlantic, off the coast of Florida. Atlantic coast, not the Gulf Coast. This being said, you take into account geology, and you take into account what we know about the relationship between particles, molecular, and electrical charge. and the way that weather behaves due to those things, and you can suppose that certain outcomes can be prized out of it. So now we need to look at this most recent where these folks are saying, well, was there weather modification? And the reason why I personally believe, yes, there was. Okay. Look at the region involved. That's Appalachia. Most of those folks are 100%, super MAGA. And when I say super MAGA, I'm not talking about, make America great again. I'm talking about make America grass again. Okay? And when I say grass, great Aryan super soldiers. That's what these people are on, okay? I'm not talking on the MAGA Make America Great Again situation. They've bastardized that term. And I think it's wrong, but what can I say? We need to look forwards towards unity, towards helping each other, not towards the wrong thing. That's my personal stance on all that. But anyways, think about the opposition of that extreme. And those people are the ones. My rooster's going nuts. Bear with me. Here I am trying to make it easier, as somebody don't know how to shut up, so I'm just going to keep rolling. So we're talking about, the fact that they look at the extreme opposition, all right? The extreme opposition is the people who are in power right now, that have that kind of power, that have that dark state, that deep state power. This is where we diverge. Because I think for certain that those people are utilizing the knowledge that is there as a weapon. And it's in a way that would look as if it was 100% natural because of everybody saying, guess what? We can't manipulate the weather. We can't manipulate this, that, or the other. We can't turn the climate this way or that way. We kind of can, not so far as climate, but so far as the weather. And that's the scary part of this, is that they actually can. And when I say they actually can, by doing it the right way, by having that knowledge that, all of these papers you've been talking about basically point out if you're able to read between the lines. You have to read between the lines and have the prior physics knowledge to understand it. Physics and meteorology go hand in hand. This is one of the reasons why you got into it, right? Well, again, I'm pointing this out because I'm not trying to berate you. I'm trying to help you to understand. There's a reason why people are paranoid, and they have every right to be. There's a reason why we're looking at this as this is entirely fifth generation warfare. It has gone beyond just combat. There is psychological, there is the what we call the ethereal, and that is everything that's around you, including the quantum. There is the ephemeral, that is the cosmos itself. It's on our side, trust me. Okay? It knows the difference between good and evil. And then there is the it's fifth gen warfare is way beyond what most people understand. They don't get it because they think, oh, it's only what affects the physical. Newsflash, everything does. You even say this yourself about about God and this. God's one of them, yes. And they all affect the physical. There's a reason why, a lot of the real MAGA crowd get confused with the Magras crowd. Let's go with that and call them that, Magras, because they're you know, they're different. They're not the same. This is a different sector of the population that latched onto that and started using it themselves because it's a good acronym. This is why I don't like acronyms very much. Don't know if everybody noticed that about how I write, but I don't like acronyms. I like to know what the actual fuck I'm talking about so that everybody else knows. So when it comes down to, weather modification, as I was saying that we kind of diverge upon. Damn it. Cigarette keeps going out. What I keep on thinking on is that they're doing it. You just don't know they're doing it or how they're doing it. And certainly you could figure it out. You've got all the knowledge at your fingertips. You're the man who's actually put most of us onto this knowledge. And when you says, "Oh well, don't be a conspiracy theorist," this is not a conspiracy theory. Go ahead and lay this down so I could do this other than one-handed. I don't have the dexterity in my fingers anymore to do it one-handed. As I was saying, you're the one who's pointed this out to us and given us the knowledge to be able to utilize to make suppositions. Some people make more exaggerated suppositions. I'll grant you that. And you are all about observation, which is fine. However, supposition is how we advance in scientific knowledge. Without these suppositions, you cannot begin to understand how we got here. It's not just observation. You have to suppose, okay, this can be done if I do this because this can happen. And then do that. And then write down your because the difference between science and fucking around is, well, what was it? Writing it down? Okay. So let's get into this with that. Look at everything that's been written down, everything that everybody's gone and done suppositions on, and then tested. Because these things have been tested and they can be done. And of course, there's, a lot of it's going to be classified as to what they're doing now. However, we can draw suppositions based upon the evidence. This is the big thing. This is all of it in a nutshell. The evidence left behind is the biggest part of it. What's the hardest thing to prove as evidence that they're doing this sort of stuff? CO2. Now, what did they do in order to move hurricanes or cause them to completely peter out back in the 60s? This is why I'm sitting there going, bro, hold up a second. You've got all the observations to be able to make this supposition. You've got them all at your fingertips. You've got them there. They're fucking with the weather. And they are fucking with the weather in a way, I mean, pardon my language, but it's part of my vocabulary. They're fucking with the weather in a way that they have been able to learn how to utilize. It's not going to be a situation like everybody else thinks it would be. It looks, that's the whole thing. It looks so that it's a one-off because of the way that they do it. This is where psychological warfare comes into it. And that's why everybody who looks like they're crazy, honestly, a lot of the time they're sane as a freaking preacher on Sunday. This is why I say, no, it wasn't HARP. HARP wouldn't do that. It's your first weapon. That's the important part I keep on trying to put across to everybody. This is what the Army teaches you first day in basic, basically. Your firearm is not your weapon. That's just terminology we use in order to define it. Your knife is not your weapon. It's just terminology we use in order to define it at the time. Your brain is your weapon. From this, everything else flows. You know, our teaching in the military has gone downhill some in recent years because of the manipulation of vocabularies of the English language, and I'll grant you that. I think that's hideous. It's one thing to be, having an accent. Accent helps you to roll thoughts a little bit easier rather than sitting there and stammering and stuttering and a. But vocabulary is a big deal. And when we define vocabulary wrong, we inevitably end up with bad training in certain situations. This is why I don't like that about the military. When they tell you this is your first weapon, that's what you're supposed to pay attention to. So here we are, I'm sitting here saying to you, this is the way we're supposed to look at this. Use your brain first. Do your research. It's right there at your fingertips. Hell, I'm talking to you on one. You're watching me on one, probably. If not, you're on a laptop computer, or you're on a fucking regular computer, or you're on your TV, which means you have the ability to go research this for yourself. Now, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to push a fellow YouTuber real quick so that y'all can understand this knowledge does exist, and it's always existed for those who know where to look. The History Guy on YouTube. Now, he tries to stay very just, unbiased and straight down the line, and he points out, there's no way one way or the other to prove this, that, or the other. Okay, look, I understand that, and, yeah, great. The reason being, and I just explained it to you, you're under psychological warfare, okay? So, take it with a grain of salt. Look at the actual evidence, and then base your supposition upon that. Don't take my word as it. Go and look up his video about hurricanes and weather modification. There's an actual video on this. That's why I says. And it's from a feller who does nothing but history. History does deserve to be remembered, because by learning our history, we can actually understand what's going on right now and be able to plan for the future. So, I hope that was helpful and instructive, educational in some sense, and helped you to understand why I said what I said in the specific comments here, there, or everywhere across the internet. Because, yes, I'm a believer that was meteorological modification through human effort. Okay? So, have yourself a good day, and I appreciate you.